Now she is frozen in time,
Yeah.
forever, at the height of her beauty. How will you remember Princess Diana?
Well, I think of her as someone who was desperately searching for love and happiness within herself, and was giving everything to others, and maybe hadn't been given enough love.
They weren't just seen together, they understood each other when no one else could. In private, they shared secrets the cameras would never capture. When the lights faded and the crowds disappeared, it was their quiet moments that revealed the truth. A truth made of laughter and loneliness, loyalty and fear. For years, Elton John stayed silent about what really bound him to Princess Diana and what ultimately pulled them apart. Now, the story he never dared to speak is ready to be heard. The smile that sparked a lifetime. This summer of 1981 would go down in British history as a watershed moment. Everybody in Britain was enthralled by the fairy tale as Prince Charles got ready to tie the knot with Diana Spencer, a young nursery school attendant. But that year meant something much more intimate for Elton John. The start of an everlasting friendship. Even though he was already one of the most recognized musicians in the world, his life would be forever altered by that. Elton had already established himself as a recognizable face to the royal family by that point. His music was beloved by the Queen Mother. Princess Margaret, who was notoriously defiant, frequently extended invitations to him to private parties at Kensington Palace. His social circle included dukes, nobles, and even Prince Philip, who made fun of him for driving a bright yellow Aston Martin about Windsor. Regardless of the glitz, Elton had never felt comfortable in those groups. Until Prince Andrew's 21st birthday bash at Windsor Castle, such was the case. Royal opulence and chandeliers adorned the ballroom. As visitors chatted, Elton sat at the piano and played softly, dressed modestly by his standards. He went on to say that he was awkward and frightened amid all the lords and ladies in the room until he glanced across and spotted her. Young and beautiful Diana Spencer, not yet a princess, had just walked in. There was a change in the air. According to Elton's autobiography, Me, she has an extraordinary natural charisma, a natural talent for putting people at ease just being around her. He grinned courteously, and she smiled back at him warmly as their eyes connected. They quickly became fast friends and were chatting away. They ended up miming Charleston in the center of the ballroom while laughing at the awful music playing. An impromptu and ridiculous moment that even the Queen grinned. That night, I felt like I'd known her forever, Elton would say later. That charisma and sense of humor were an anchor for Diana. Just a few weeks later, she would be wed into a family that stood for propriety, regimentation, and reservedness. As time went on, the journalists would analyze her every move. Elton found her to be quite genuine, humble, intelligent, and empathetic. She was fabulous company, he remembered. The best dinner guest, incredibly indiscreet, and a real gossip. But she cared deeply about people. From that night on, their bond deepened, both outsiders in their own worlds. He, a flamboyant musician, constantly under scrutiny for his sexuality. She, a woman about to lose her freedom to the royal institution. They saw each other's pain without judgment. That mutual understanding, born out of laughter on a dance floor, would turn into one of the most enduring friendships of the 20th century. Neither of them could have known that it would also end in unimaginable tragedy, and that one day Elton's voice would be the one to say goodbye for them both. How did a single smile across the ballroom turn into a bond strong enough to withstand the pressures of royalty and fame? What secrets did they share behind palace walls? Bound by secrets, broken by pressure. There was a level of inseparability between Elton John and Princess Diana in the 80s and 90s that nobody else could fathom. In spite of the spotlight that was always on them, they managed to cultivate a friendship based on trust and openness. Smiles and laughter were captured on camera every time they made an appearance together. be it at a royal event, a charity gala, or a concert. The secret compassion that bound them together, nevertheless, remained hidden from view. According to Elton, Diana possessed a natural talent. The world's most powerful people could always count on her to put them at ease, but she rarely experienced inner calm. She felt stuck in the middle of two worlds, the royal court and the common people. Prince Charles's feelings for her cooled as the 1980s wore on. Since they were together for so long, Elton John and Princess Diana were like a battalion. In the press, rumors of adultery, estrangement, and hopelessness were written in plenty. Royal protocol was becoming too much for Diana to bear within Kensington Palace. Elton was painfully aware of the isolation, addiction, self-doubt, and the weight of continual scrutiny were his personal issues, hidden under his expensive outfits and stardom. Because they could relate to her suffering, an unspoken love blossomed between them. Diana put her faith in. During these challenging years, their friendship flourished. Both Diana and Elton were passionate about the fight against AIDS. Therefore, Diana frequently attended his charity concerts. Diana broke royal protocol by visiting AIDS patients, shaking their hands, and hugging them sans gloves during a time when the stigma surrounding the disease was incredibly high. This one deed, according to Elton, altered the public's view of AIDS forcibly. He then understood how courageous she actually was. Neither her reputation nor rumors concerned her. She was concerned about the welfare of individuals. We also had happier moments. Diana was identical to Elton in her naughty sense of humor. His capacity to transform royal stiffness into charisma was something he appreciated in her, while she delighted in mocking him for his extravagant clothing. Elton remembered gatherings when she would burst out laughing at his jokes or scowl at the posh people. Disarray ensued regardless of their destination. Richard Gere and Sylvester Stallone met Diana at a London private dinner party one night, and the two immediately fell head over heels for one another. Elton said it was a near fistfight because he wanted her attention. His subsequent writings revealed that the two Hollywood heavy hitters were on the brink of a brawl. A spell had been cast upon them. Diana's private life continued to be filled with unfortunate events, despite the fact that she was able to garner loving followers and big audiences wherever she went. The challenges she faced on a daily basis were bulimia, sleeplessness, and an overwhelming feeling of never being loved. Elton would pay her a visit on occasion in order to simply listen to her perform. They were just two friends, and they were protected from prying eyes and ears. This was a magical situation. The requirements of celebrity, on the other hand, were intensifying. Elton would pay her a visit on occasion in order to simply listen to her perform. There was no recording equipment present. It was just two friends hiding from the commotion. The requirements of celebrity, on the other hand, were intensifying. Elton would pay her a visit on occasion in order to simply listen to her perform. The increasingly complex and manipulative realm of Diana's court grew increasingly difficult to traverse. Fearing for her safety, Elton was well aware of how precarious trust might be in such a setting. Having become close in the early 1990s, they joked, fought, and relied on each other as if they were siblings. But there was the odd argument that came along with the deep love. Even their closest bond started to fracture due to fame, pride, and tiredness. As time went on, issues like miscommunication and distrust arose. The increasingly complex and manipulative realm of Diana's court grew increasingly difficult to traverse. Fearing for her safety, Elton was well aware of how precarious trust might be in such a setting. Having become close in the early 1990s, they joked, fought, and relied on each other as if they were siblings. But there was the odd argument that came along with the deep love. Even their closest bond started to fracture due to fame, pride, and tiredness. As time went on, issues like miscommunication and distrust arose. Knowing how easily trust might be broken would lead to the friendship hitting rock bottom, an experience that neither of them would soon forget. Elton fretted over her all the time. They laughed together in public, but suffered silently in private. Their bond was strong enough to weather fame, scandal, and grief until it wasn't, when loyalty collided with the crown. The friendship between Princess Diana and Elton John had become one of the most talked about ties between a royal and a celebrity by the mid-1990s. The public never saw the ways they supported each other, but they had laughed through scandals and endured media storms together. Something out of the ordinary occurred in 1996, though. Something that would rip their friendship apart, leaving them both distraught and mute. An incredibly meaningful charitable initiative for Elton was the starting point. A coffee table book of rock photography featuring glitzy portraits of artists, musicians, and performers was his latest project. He planned to donate the profits to a charity fighting AIDS. Diana had consented to pen the preface. It was more than a favor, it was an assertion. Breaking taboos and humanizing an illness many people feared, she had long been an advocate for AIDS awareness. Having her name attached to the project was a profound sign of compassion and a great honor for Elton. Afterwards, she abruptly pulled back. Polite and distant, a letter came from Diana's office. She went on to say that she was unable to continue. Elton found out later that the cause was the disfavor of the royal family. Her participation in a book featuring semi-naked male models had prompted advisors from Buckingham Palace to voice their disapproval. As far as Elton could remember, they were against any association of a member of the royal family with such iconography. Even though it was from a buddy he believed he could rely on, he still felt betrayed, and not by a princess. "I wasn't very pleased, and I let her know it," Elton confessed on Larry King Live many years later. His dissatisfaction was conveyed through a message he sent her. Diana, who felt cornered, wrote a short note in response. The blow was sudden, icy, and fatal. Afterwards, nobody spoke. They were silent for months. Not because of her choice, but due to the subsequent estrangement, Elton claimed he felt profoundly wounded. At the same time, Diana was experiencing immense stress. In August of 1996, she had recently finalized her divorce from Prince Charles. Along with her Royal Highness and royal title, she had also lost a part of her identity. No amount of time spent in the palace alleviated the constant harassment from the press. She started to doubt her ability to trust anyone when she was surrounded by others with competing interests. Although Elton suspected that palace advisors were behind her retreat, he couldn't help but wonder whether she had finally had enough of being tied down to the plight of others. Regardless of the cause, harm had already been done. Two individuals who had previously been inseparable, sharing joys and sorrows, as well as royal secrets, were now complete strangers. As Elton would later say, "It was terrible. We had never lied to one another." However, ego had other plans. Although he could have called her, he chose not to, he conceded. "It was too late to rectify things since we were both too proud," he said. Their mutual isolation deepened over the course of nearly a year. Elton kept on his philanthropic activities behind closed doors, while Diana sought to start over as a solo humanitarian. Still, an unresolved friendship weighed heavily on both of their hearts. Neither of them could have foreseen the impending catastrophe that would force them to meet face to face just as time was running out. One apology, too late. Tragically, Italian designer Gianni Versace was killed and assassinated outside his Miami Beach residence on July 15th, 1997. He was great friends with Diana and Elton. In the entertainment and fashion industries, the news made ripples. Devastated were Elton and Diana. In 1991, she posed for Harper's Bazaar in a Versace gown, and she cherished him as a confidant and friend. Diana allegedly asked her bodyguard, "Do you think they'll do that to me?" following his assassination. It foreshadowed the horrors that were to follow. Diana noticed Elton sobbing during Versace's funeral in Milan. Despite the months of silence between them, she approached him and extended her hand to shake his. "I'm really sorry," she muttered. "Our argument was completely unwarranted. Let's get back to being buddies." Diana, in typical Diana style, relieved the tension with laughter, but Elton subsequently admitted that the experience had a profound effect on him. "God, I'd love a polo," were her words of consolation at that very moment, he recalled. They rekindled their bond in that very moment as they laughed. They decided to meet up again shortly. Unfortunately, that meeting would still not take place 6 weeks later. The goodbye he never wanted to sing. In the wee hours of the morning on August 31st, 1997, Elton John was roused from his sleep by the sound of his business fax machine. There was a message that had been received. He switched to the television, perplexed by the situation. With that, the entire globe was silent. It was discovered that Princess Diana had been killed in a car accident in Paris as she was being pursued by paparazzi through the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. She was 36 years old at the time. This left Elton in utter disbelief. Later on, he remarked that it seemed unreal. We had been laughing together at Gianni's funeral, where we had been just a few weeks before. She had vanished at this point. The Spencer family requested that he perform at her funeral, and he declined their request. The words of his song, Candle in the Wind, which was initially composed for Marilyn Monroe, were rewritten by him in collaboration with Bernie Taupin. This is the beginning of the new version, which reads, "Goodbye, England's rose, may you ever grow in our hearts." As millions of people watched from all across the world, on September 6, 1997, Elton stood in Westminster Abbey. At the beginning of his singing, his hands began to shake. This song was not a performance in any way. It was time to say goodbye. According to what he said afterward, there was a feeling that the entire world was watching me for a period of 4 minutes. However, it was not about me at all. There was a focus on her. There is just one version of Candle in the Wind available. During the year 1997, the song was sold in excess of 33 million copies, making it the record that sold the most copies in the whole history of worldwide music. Elton, on the other hand, remarked that he never got the feeling that he was proud of it. There was a confession that he made, and he inquired as to why anyone would be interested in listening to it. It had a foreboding atmosphere. It was not something that I would ever be willing to be happy about in any circumstance. In no way was it a successful endeavor for him. It was a wound that would never regain its previous condition. He made her a promise in silence, a vow to protect what mattered most to her, and long after she was gone, he's still keeping it. Promises kept in the shadow of loss. Elton consistently upheld his commitment to safeguard Diana's sons. Even after all these years, Elton took a stand when Prince Harry was the target of relentless media scrutiny. As the person responsible for Diana's death, I am obligated to shield Harry and his family from the press's interference. He maintains close relationships with both princes and frequently hosts them personally at his residence. In retrospect, Elton acknowledged that the short distance between them in the 90s lingered with him for a long time. "I would have answered the phone," he claimed, "had I had the chance to travel back in time. Apologies is what I would have said. Avoid being proud. Life is too brief." Additionally, he disclosed his belief that the choice by Diana to withdraw from the charity effort could have been impacted by pressure from the palace, serving as a reminder of the unseen influences that molded her life. It was a bond unlike any other that they shared. An aristocrat and a rock star brought together by amusement and isolation. Thanks to him, everyone got to see an authentic, unrehearsed Diana, someone who, like everyone else, laughed, grieved, and cursed. He was driven to fame as an international leader in the battle against AIDS and humanitarian causes as a result of her being the spark for Elton's recovery of empathy and purpose, which in turn propelled him to prominence. When he plays the piano, the crowd still maintains a slight silence throughout the performance. Despite the silence, he is still able to pick up on the sound of her laughter out in the distance. Kindness and honesty could coexist in an image-based world, as he once put it. She demonstrated it. Her indelible quality was that very thing. Truth formed their bond, pride tore it apart, and a song became an anthem for their friendship. Even after all these years, their victims are not forgotten. Her remembrance is like a candle that never goes out. Elton takes it with him. What do you think? Was theirs a friendship of destiny or the quiet confession of two people hiding in plain sight? Did they meet by chance, or because the world pushed them to find someone who truly understood? If this story moved you, hit like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more untold truths behind history's most unforgettable lives.